We pick up Act 3, Scene 3 at line 322. Iago has just snatched Desdemona's handkerchief from Emilia, who had already picked it up off the floor after Desdemona had unwittingly dropped it. With no further use for his wife and anxious to get Othello by himself when he returns, Iago has contemptuously dismissed her and is now alone. In his subsequent brief soliloquy, he reveals what he plans to do with it. I will in Cassio's lodgings lose this napkin and let him find it. After all, he says, to the jealous, even the most flimsy and trivial of evidence becomes as compelling as if it were written in the Bible. Trifles light as air are to the jealous confirmations strong as proofs of Holy Writ. Othello is already changing under the influence of his poison, he gloats. Dangerous conceits or imaginings, which at first are scarce found to distaste, but with a little act upon the blood, burn like the mines of sulphur. In other words, like poison, they only need a little time to go from being barely unpleasant on the tongue to raging like the fires of hell, once freely circulating in the bloodstream. Othello now enters, and Iago can barely conceal his malicious and sadistic glee that he appears to be a man so possessed with doubts and jealousy that he will never now know a peaceful night's sleep, even with the aid of drugs. Not poppy nor mandragora, nor all the drowsy syrups of the world shall ever medicine thee to that sweet sleep which thou odest yesterday. Othello is beside himself. He turns his anger onto Iago for having hinted to him of Desdemona's infidelity in the first place. He tells him to go away. Avaunt, be gone, blaming him for the mental torture he is now experiencing. Thou hast set me on the rack, as he declares that it is better to be much abused than but to know it a little. In other words, it is better to be deceived massively and be completely in the dark about it than to be aware of even a little part. He is desperate to go back to a time when ignorance was bliss. What sense had I of her stolen hours of lust? I saw it not, thought it not, it harmed not me. I slept the next night well, fed well, was free and merry. I found not Cassio's kisses on her lips. If a person doesn't miss what's been stolen from them and you don't tell them about it, then effectively there hasn't been a theft at all, he says. He that is robbed, not wanting or missing what is stolen, let him not know it, and he is not robbed at all. He would, he said, have been happy if the general camp or the whole army, including even the lowliest soldiers, pioneers and all, had tasted her sweet body, so I had nothing known. This now makes him think of his identity as a soldier and how he feels he will never again be in the right frame of mind to lead an army into battle, as he bids a dramatic farewell to all the trappings of war, such as the decorated helmets of the soldiers, the horses, the trumpets, the drum, the flute, the royal colours, as well as the mighty cannons that mimic the dreaded roar of the god Jupiter. Farewell the tranquil mind, farewell content, farewell the plumed troops and the big wars that makes ambition virtue, oh farewell! Farewell the neighing steed and the shrill trump, the spirit-stirring drum, the ear-piercing fife, the royal banner, and all quality, pride, pomp and circumstance of glorious war. And oh, you mortal engines, whose rude throats the immortal Jove's dread clamouring counterfeit, farewell! Othello's occupation is gone. Note the way Othello's impassioned speech and the way he glorifies war as something that makes ambition, usually seen as something sinful, noble, highlights how being a soldier is integral to his identity and how his professionalism and level-headedness are intrinsic to this. Once these have gone, he has nothing left, and his purpose in life will be destroyed. Othello once more turns on Iago, threatening him that he had better provide concrete proof that he can see with his own eyes of Desdemona's infidelity, or he'll wish he'd never been born. Villain, be sure thou prove my love a whore. Be sure of it. Give me the ocular proof, or by the worth of mine eternal soul, thou hadst been better have been born a dog than answer my waked wrath. He goes even further, declaring that should Iago be making stuff up about his wife in order to torment him, he will surely be damned with no chance of redemption, because there is no greater sin than that. If thou dost slander her and torture me, never pray more. Abandon all remorse. On horror's head horrors accumulate. Do deeds to make heaven weep, all earth amazed. For nothing canst thou to damnation add greater than that. Iago is probably now at his most vulnerable point in this scene, as Othello has actually hit the nail right on the head. His plot is on a knife edge, and how he handles this now will make or break him. Note how in this section of the scene he has let Othello do most of the talking up until this point, allowing him to rant on while he offers the odd comment or question. He now masterfully steps in, turning the tables back on Othello in order to take direct control of the interaction. "O grace, O heaven forgive me! Are you a man? Have you a soul or sense? God buy you, take mine office." He pretends to be mortally offended by such an accusation, even going as far as to proffer his resignation from his post as ensign. He melodramatically goes on to blame himself for being honest to a fault, and to swear off love and friendship in the future because all they do is cause pain. He calls himself a wretched fool that lovest to make thine honesty a vice. O monstrous world, take note, O world. To be direct and honest is not safe. I thank you for this profit, and from hence I'll love no friend, sith love breeds such offence. He has learnt a valuable lesson, he says, for which he is grateful, and will refrain from loving anyone again. This emotional blackmail has the desired effect on Othello, and it quickly puts him on the back foot. "Nay, stay," he implores him, "thou shouldst be honest." "Humph," sniffs Iago, pretending that his feelings are still hurt, and not wanting to be too quickly and too suspiciously won over. "I shouldst be wise, for honesty's a fool and loses that it works for." In other words, he's going to keep his trap shut in future, because being honest only ends up losing the love that it was trying to earn in the first place. Othello now muses on the concepts of Desdemona's honesty or chastity and Iago's justness or truthfulness, as the two are mutually exclusive. They cannot both exist, as if Desdemona is virtuous, then Iago is a liar. But if Iago is honest, then Desdemona has betrayed her marriage vows. He is stuck between a rock and a hard place, and the only thing that will settle the matter is proof. Shakespeare has Othello conflate the blackness of Desdemona's supposed sin with the blackness of his own skin. Her name, that was as fresh as Dian's visage, is now begrimed and black as mine own face. In other words, her name or reputation were once as white as the visage or face of Diana, a virgin goddess of classical mythology, but it is now as begrimed or dirty and black as his own actual face. Note that this is not the first time that outward appearances and inner qualities have been conflated to suggest that being a person of colour is inherently sinful. See Act 1, Scene 3, line 286 and Act 2, Scene 1, line 132. Othello now threatens to kill himself as a means of settling his uncertainties once and for all. If there be cords or knives, poison or fire or suffocating streams, I'll not endure it. Would I were satisfied. Iago now puts on a conciliatory air and expresses his regret that he said anything to Othello in the first place, because he can see that Othello is very upset. I see, sir, you are eaten up with passion. I do repent me that I put it to you. And he asks Othello if he would or wishes to be satisfied, i.e. made certain of her infidelity. Wish to be, fires back Othello. No, I will be. Okay, says Iago, so what kind of certainty do you want? Would you, the supervisor, grossly gape on, behold her topped? In other words, do you actually want to catch them in the act, to see Desdemona and Cassio in bed together having sex? Iago is playing a skillful but dangerous game here. It's a big gamble because there is no prospect of this happening. What if Othello said, actually, yes, that's exactly what I want to see to be absolutely sure? Iago's plan would be dead in the water, as he wouldn't be able to orchestrate it. He's calling Othello's bluff, banking on the fact that his crude language will make Othello recoil from the very idea of demanding this level of proof. The degree of his love and jealousy are such that this is unimaginable. Othello's response, death and damnation, oh, is evidence that he is indeed on the right track, but he has to make absolutely sure. He says, pretending to be thinking long and hard about it. The logistics of catching them at it are extremely problematic, though. It were a tedious difficulty, I think, to bring them to that prospect. How could we do it? How could we do it? It's impossible you should see this. Were they as prime as goats, as hot as monkeys, as salt as wolves in pride, and fools as gross as ignorance made drunk? Note how he refers here to animals that were widely regarded as being lustful in order to luridly characterise Desdemona and Cassio as sex-obsessed beasts. I don't see how it can be done, he says, even though the pair of them will be at it like rabbits. But if that's the level of proof you require, I'll see what I can do. We can already see Othello backing away from the thought of this distressing spectacle, as he demands that Iago instead give him a living or valid reason she's disloyal. Iago pretends to be reluctant, but says that he might as well, now that he's already in it up to the neck, as a result of his foolish honesty and love. But he proceeds to tell a tale that makes Cassio look very guilty indeed. I lay with Cassio lately, and being troubled with a raging tooth, I could not sleep. Note here that with Iago and Cassio sharing of a bed, we must be careful before we jump to any conclusions regarding their sexuality. Not only was homosexuality a crime at the time, but male friendships were very highly regarded during the Elizabethan era, as they were seen as the height of intimacy between equals. Beds were not just for sleeping and having sex, and men often platonically shared a bed so that they could talk. Iago goes on to recount that he heard Cassio talking in his sleep. I heard him say, "Sweet Desdemona, let us be wary, let us hide our loves." And then, sir, he would gripe or grip and wring my hand, cry, "Oh, sweet creature," and then kiss me hard, as if he plucked up kisses by the roots that grew upon my lips, then laid his leg over my thigh and sighed and kissed, and then cried, "Cursed fate that gave thee to the moor." This is a masterstroke. Not only would it be impossible to disprove if it were to come out, as Cassio was asleep, but this lurid description of Cassio supposedly reenacting the sexual act with Desdemona is also the next best thing to the actual proof that Othello has been demanding. Othello at last seems to be convinced, moaning, "Oh, monstrous, monstrous!" Iago, however, tests the water in order to make sure that Othello is firmly on the hook, half-heartedly reassuring him that this is not proof in and of itself. Nay, this was but his dream. But, counters Othello, this denoted a foregone conclusion. In other words, this is evidence of the fact that the pair have already slept with one another. Iago agrees that Othello might be onto something there. "'Tis a shrewd doubt, though it be but a dream," and this may help to thicken other proofs that do demonstrate thinly. In other words, this evidence that he has provided, although still circumstantial, he hopes will serve to strengthen other, even weaker circumstantial evidence. Othello responds to this with the violent exclamation, "I'll tear her all to pieces." Iago now delivers the coup de grace, simultaneously urging self-restraint while revealing that he saw Cassio wiping his beard with a handkerchief spotted with strawberries. Any remaining doubt that Othello may have had is swept away once and for all, as the idea that Desdemona has given away Othello's love token to another man is definitive proof of her infidelity and Cassio's treachery. And this is the last straw. Oh, that the slave had 40,000 lives. One is too poor, too weak for my revenge. Now do I see 'tis true. Look here, Iago, all my fond love, thus do I blow to heaven. 'Tis gone. Arise, black vengeance, from thy hollow cell. Yield up, O love, thy crown and hearted throne to tyrannous hate. Swell, bosom, with thy fraught, for 'tis of aspics' tongues. Note how Shakespeare has Othello break his blank verse at line 447 to indicate that he has definitively ruptured the bond of love between himself and Desdemona. There is now no turning back for him as he replaces the love that formerly ruled his heart with black vengeance. Note also how he now kneels, placing himself in a visually subordinate position to Iago, and so signalling to the audience that Iago is now his master, rather than the other way round. Iago now confidently orders him to calm down, but these words, as he knows they will, fall on deaf ears. "Oh, blood, blood, blood," Othello moans. Note how Iago's tone has become much more commanding. "Patience, I say, your mind perhaps may change." Othello's response is absolute. "Never, Iago. Like to the Pontic sea, whose icy current and compulsive course ne'er feels retiring ebb, but keeps due on to the Propontic and the Hellespont. Even so my bloody thoughts with violent pace shall ne'er look back, ne'er ebb to humble love, till that a capable and wide revenge swallow them up." Shakespeare employs water imagery in this simile to evoke the way in which Othello is now hell-bent on exacting his revenge on both Cassio and Desdemona. The Pontic Sea is what we now know of as the Black Sea, which is bordered by Ukraine to the north, Russia and Georgia to the east, Turkey to the south, and Bulgaria and Romania to the west. It flows into the smaller Sea of Marmara, referred to by Shakespeare as the Propontic here, and then through the Dardanelles, the Hellespont, which is a narrow strait linking the Black Sea and the Aegean Sea. The Black Sea is supplied by a number of major rivers and has only a very weak tide, meaning that the water effectively only flows one way, rather than submitting to the ebb and flow of a tide backwards and forwards. In other words, then, Othello's bloody thoughts can only move coldly in one direction, towards revenge, and there is no chance that they will ever ebb or dwindle back towards humble love. Note the relentless forward movement of this part of the speech, effected by the enjambment here, which serves to enhance his meaning. Note now how Othello's language takes on religious overtones. His metaphor, marble heaven, to describe a sky that appears cold and unfeeling, evoking the interior of a church, as he makes a sacred vow that this shall be his course of action. "Now by yonder marble heaven, in the due reverence of a sacred vow, I here engage my words." This is music to Iago's ears, as he too drops to his knees to give his own vow of loyalty to Othello in what comes across as a twisted parody of a marriage ceremony. "Witness, you ever-burning lights above, you elements that clip us round about. Witness that here Iago doth give up the execution of his wit, hands, heart, to wronged Othello's service. Let him command, and to obey shall be in me remorse. What bloody business ever." In other words, he will, out of compassion for the wronged Othello, do whatever murderous task Othello orders him to do. Othello is suitably grateful for Iago's vow of allegiance and puts him to work immediately, demanding that within these 3 days let me hear thee say that Cassio's not alive. Consider it done, responds Iago, but let her live. What is he doing here? Is he merely toying with Othello, or is he just making sure of the strength of his resolve? If so, he needn't have worried as Othello rants, "Damn her, lewd minx, oh damn her, damn her. Come, go with me apart. I will withdraw to furnish me with some swift means of death for the fair devil." Not only this, but what is also surely the cherry on top. Now art thou my lieutenant. In the space of a mere 480 lines, Iago has managed to get Othello so under his influence that he has convinced him that Desdemona and Cassio are engaged in a steamy affair. He's engineered his sanctioning of Cassio's murder, and he's earned promotion for himself, the position of lieutenant that he's been coveting from the very start. As the pair exit, Iago can only be congratulating himself for what has clearly been a very good day at the office. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments section below, and I'll do my best to answer them. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more videos on English language topics and exam techniques, and English literature texts.